What I just done read.
Oh, yeah, look. Ta-da! I am supping from my very own What I Just Unread Moog. No, of course, it's not a Moog, it's a mug. But if you grew up watching Will-O-the-Wisp, then you'll understand the horror. Hello, welcome back to What I Just Unread. My name is Max, and this is a book review show that likes to give its due to all books, not just those that are new releases. Suddenly I feel a couple of inches tall. I must admit, before we jump into this one today, I did wonder if I'd be able to get hold of the filaments for the end credits, but I'm not sure I could afford the license. If you know, then you know, as the man himself says, the same rules apply. Yes, today we will be talking about Irvine Welsh's Filth. Before we do that, as I've been doing recently, thank you very much to everybody who's been checking out the channel. If you do like what we do here with the range of wonderful things that we do, please do consider liking, sharing, subscribing, and if you like as well, support us on Patreon and on Buy Us a Coffee. Hello! So, before we have a look at today's book, we have just got the business of our word of the day today.
Well, as I said, it really was...
Shut it, Alan. I want you to stop.
I am a big fan of Chris Morris. Thank you for all that you have done so far. Okay, yes, word of the day is going to be obstreperous. What a lovely, lovely word. I must admit, I haven't had time for this one to properly go into the etymology of the word, but basically it means noisy and difficult to control. A couple of synonyms for it would be stuff like blatant, boisterous, strident, vociferous, which could be a word of the day in itself, I suppose. But yes, yeah, it's a lovely one. I suppose, weirdly enough, I didn't find it in Filth, but to a degree, it would apply to our protagonist from this book as well. So there you go. Again, as always, please take it, use it, make it your own, and give it some love. Irvine Welsh, born in September 1958, although apparently from one of the sources that I looked at, according to the Glasgow Police Department, he was born in 1951. I don't know which is right, you'd have to ask the man himself. He was born in Leith, which is the Dockland area of Edinburgh, but at an early age, about the age of 4, his family moved to the housing schemes in Muirside, which is where he grew up. He attended Ainsley High School, and when he left school, trained to be an electrical engineer and found work as a TV repairman. Around about 1978, he left Edinburgh for London, chasing the punk scene, and would stay in London until the late 80s. Certainly when he first arrived down there, he was in 2 punk bands. Must admit, I've never heard of either of them, but that says more about me than obviously the punk scene itself, and also at the time I was like 4, so why would I know? He was guitarist and vocalist for 2 different punk bands. One was called Stairway 13, and the other one was The Pubic Lice. How much more punk can you get? This period of his life was very much coloured by his own obstreperous period, if you like. He got involved quite heavily in petty crime, was arrested a few times for it, as well as nursing his own heroin addiction, which culminated with him trashing a London community centre, for which he was lucky enough to receive a suspended sentence, and that appears to have been enough for him to go, I better start turning things around now. He went on to get a job for Hackney Council while studying for an MBA in computer science. I must admit, I couldn't find an exact date, but sometime in the late 80s, he left London and returned to Edinburgh with his degree and got work in the housing department for Edinburgh Council. And the next big thing would be when he very much exploded onto the literary scene with his seminal work Trainspotting, which was published in 1993. That was followed in 94 by his first short story collection, The Acid House, and then by his second novel, and I always get this wrong because it's weird words, there you go, Marabou Stalk Nightmares? Nightmares. I want to say nights because that's how you kind of think it's going to go, but it doesn't. Yes, Marabou Stalk Nightmares in 95, his second collection of short stories, Ecstasy, in 96, and then in 98, Filth, which is where we're going to be going now. As I always do, I will give you some of the blurb, which on this one is pretty easy. Suitable only for persons of strong constitution. Contains drug use, perversion, murder, corruption, sexism, racism, law enforcement, and a tapeworm. And then there's a quote here from the Scotsman, a bit of a soundbite from here saying, "A snarling epic of a book, don't dare miss it." So this is kind of like my introduction to Irvine Welsh's work in print. Like most people, I only really know him from the movie adaptation of Trainspotting. The book itself, very basically, is the internal monologue of Detective Sergeant Bruce Robertson, who is a member of the Serious Crimes Unit of Edinburgh Constabulary. It opens with the murder of a young black man in the city centre of Edinburgh, which takes place a few weeks before Christmas, and Robertson is put in charge of the investigation. Although, again, this isn't too much of a spoiler, the murder investigation itself is very much secondary to the narrative. I mean, there's even things like the internal departmental politics of the police unit that he works for seems to play more of a role in the book than solving the crime itself. As the story continues, we are introduced to the aforementioned second narrator, if you like, which is a tapeworm that is living in Robertson's guts. It's an interesting one. I had heard from a number of people that Irvine Welsh tends to use a lot of Scottish colloquialisms in his work, which apparently has turned some people off reading his books. And I must admit, I was kind of intrigued because I wondered if I'd end up getting some kind of bleed through of that into my own internal monologue. I did find that happened, thankfully not for too long, after reading Anthony Burgess's A Clockwork Orange.
Try the wine.
I did find sometimes certain words would suddenly crop up in my internal monologue, which was, yeah, that's not what we want. And thankfully, in this case, that hasn't happened. But if you are worried about those kind of things, then really don't. There's a few words here and there that you might not recognise. You can probably figure out what they are. And if you can't, we live in the information age. You can very quickly find out what he's referring to by looking online. I must admit, I did find the book quite slow to begin with. I think I got to about 85 pages in and was starting to feel a bit bored. But kind of from that point forward, it gets worse. So do stick with it, because that's probably a suitable tagline for the book. It just gets worse. Sorry, I'm going to have some tea now. Yummy. That's not just with regards to the events or our protagonist. You kind of find that most of the people that he knows aren't particularly nice people either. Which I must admit is one of the things that the 2013 movie adaptation conveys quite well, although that is about the only thing that it does actually convey quite well, because I did watch it after reading the book, of course, just to see comparisons. What is really nice as well is the gradual encroachment of the tapeworm into the narrative. I really liked it, not purely from a narrative point of view, but also from a visual point of view as well, which is one of the things that is really nice about the book, when you get sort of lovely stuff like this. There's some really innovative uses of the page itself, which I did like, which, I mean, this does kind of quite neatly bring me on to what I think of the product. I mean, this is a really nice edition, obviously released to coincide with the movie. I meant to have the Blu-ray with me here, but it's over there somewhere, so sorry. I did find that Welsh does some really nice stuff visually with the book, which is always nice. It adds something extra to the reading experience, I find. I mean, even little simple things like his use of hyphenation in place of traditional quotation marks in the sections where there's dialogue going on. It seems more, it complements this sort of stream of consciousness style of writing, and it works really well. So for that, thank you. Thank you very much. Although I would say one thing that I did find with regards to the Princess of the Tapeworm, towards the end of the book, I did find in some places that its own voice is slightly muted by the exposition that it's there to deliver, which is a shame. It's not a massive thing, but it is something that I noted. I do have a little bit more to say about this, and I want to go into my thoughts and things like that, but they're also kind of tied into my recommendations as well. So I'm going to go and do my I rating things now, and then we'll jump back into the rest of it when I get back. So we're going to need eyes, we're going to need this. Don't do anything you shouldn't do, or you'll get your collar felt. You're going to have to wait a minute because, unfortunately, I've still got more to say. I mean, overall, Yes, I enjoyed it. I did enjoy the book. Insofar as you can enjoy spending that much time in the head of somebody like Bruce Robertson. It is hard going at times, but it is very well realised. I did find it was reminiscent of Bret Easton Ellis's masterwork, American Psycho, in places. Not entirely, but there are little key points in it that made me very much think of that book, which, considering that American Psycho was published in 91 and this came out in 98, I do wonder whether or not, in part, Welsh was channeling that when he was writing it. What really surprised me is, towards the end of the book, Welsh manages to instill such a wonderful sense of pathos in the work that it felt, as I was reading it, that it transcended the page, and I felt almost enveloped by it. It was palpable, which you have to give him kudos for that. I mean, that's the hallmark of a great writer, and not something easy to achieve. So for that, Irvine, thank you very much. That really kind of felt something from it. So thank you. Ultimately, though, I do find that I have been left with questions, and for this one, I am going to look off camera and go, damn you for putting questions in my head, Sam, because he brought this up, and he's very right about it when he said to us that why does this book exist? Who is it for? So much of Welsh's early work in particular is basically a social commentary on the rave generation. And then there's this. And I'm kind of struggling to try and figure out what was the point of this. I do, still having running around in my head is something that Sam said to us, which is something that he kind of thought, is this an attempt to push the boundary as far as he can to see at what point that they won't publish his work? I mean, I kind of wondered, is he trying to say that the drug culture of the late 20th century is so systemic that even something like the halls of justice are not immune to it? Which is entirely possible. I mean, let's look at what was arguably called the greatest decade of all time, the 1890s, which was just rife with drug addiction at all levels. So, I don't know, maybe that's it. The only other thing that I could come up with is, because so much of his other work is based more on the criminal element, and because this book, like some of his others as well, does quite a lot of world building to his shared universe. There's characters from other works mentioned in it or appear in it. For example, I know Francis Begbie is mentioned. Two of the characters that are in it, Setterington and Gorman, are from Marrowby Stalk Nightmares. Yes. So is it just a case of he was bored of dealing with the criminal element and wanted to give the halls of justice, as I said, their due as well? I don't know. If anybody does know, then please feel free to let me know in the comments below, because I would say it's keeping me up at night, but I don't sleep, so it's not. But yes, it is something that's been preying on my mind. So yeah, damn you. Would I recommend it after all of that? Yes, I would, absolutely. It's definitely worth a read. I must admit, I didn't find that I had to put it down at any point, but it is what it says on the tin. It is filth. But it is worth a read, definitely. What I did also find out when I was doing my research for this, which I didn't realise, Crime is a direct sequel to Filth, which features one of the characters from the book, Ray Lennox, as its protagonist. So I have added that onto the list as well, and I will get onto that one at some point. In terms of eyes, we have gone with, it gets a 5i for the product, because I really liked it. As I said, I really liked a lot of the interesting stuff that's gone into the product. It gets a 4i for the content. It is a good book and I really enjoyed it, but I don't know, I can't call it a great book. It doesn't quite qualify for a 5i in terms of content. Again, I'll remember this time because I do keep forgetting. We can now take it off the list. I'm going to have to come over here. So, there we go. Oops. There we go. That's another early one from the original list gone. And as I'm going to try and do for a little while now, I'm going to kind of flip-flop between later ones from the list and earlier ones. So, next up we have... Gothic Short Stories, edited by David Blair. This one, it was a gift from my friend Simon Morgan. Thank you very much. I have given it a quick look. I've read the first couple of stories in here. Fascinating, very interesting. Basically, it's a collection of short stories. There are some well-known ones in here. There's stuff like Shark and the Painter, there's an M.R. James, there's a Poe, a few traditional ones, but What I find interesting about this is the editor has taken some time to look for some obscure stories as well that have pretty much lost to antiquity and given them a fresh airing. So it'll be interesting to see what this gives. As always, thank you for listening, and if you do want to see more of this, then come back next time, maybe? Or check us out on our regular show, Maybe Movies. Until then, get thee gone. Filth. All dirty. Dirty.